I'm David Patty.
I'm Kathy Nickles.
And I'm Jim Houston. Welcome to today's segment of Real Estate Today. And today we're talking about REOs, short sales, and everything to do with buying a property that's gone into foreclosure. Kathy, what do you think?
You know, this is something I've been working on for a long time. I've worked with Sherry Atkinson for, 15 years, and at least 12 of those we've been doing foreclosures. She is extremely knowledgeable in it, has had many of the government contacts, the Freddie Macs, the Fannie Maes, and that sort of thing. So our office is lucky to have her, and we have a good resource to know how to handle them. Each one's different. Each one has its own idiosyncrasies that they want to do. That you like that word?
That's a good word.
That's a big word. Yes, it's really important to know your seller in this case, and to understand some of the common misconceptions. You know, one of the biggest questions I hear is, "Well, I want a foreclosure because I want to get a really good deal," and that's not always the case.
Right.
So
I think one of the situations that we ought to handle today is just kind of let me ask some questions as somebody that really doesn't have a whole lot of knowledge of the foreclosure buying process, what some of the benefits are, some of the negatives, and basically how the process works. So I'll let you guys get started with that, and as you say something that I don't understand, I'm going to interrupt and ask a question.
Okay. Well, first of all, you know, people will call and say, "Hey, I've got this, I found this on this website and it says it's in foreclosure." That's not always the case. And we get that more often than anything. It's like, "This one's in foreclosure." No, it's not.
Well, how would the person know that a property is or is not in foreclosure?
Call a realtor who has some experience with it. Call one of us, because it's public information when someone becomes behind on their mortgage payments, and those go into the news. I mean, the papers, they're filed. And so you get those websites that are throwing them out there, and you have people that are simply behind on their mortgage, living in their house with people coming up to their windows, peeking in, trying to see. Yeah, it happens. It's sad. It doesn't truly become a foreclosure until it hits the courthouse steps. And I know Jim and I have been to the courthouse to see that process firsthand. The bank sends it to the courthouse. They put out that first bid. So someone thinks they're going to go to the courthouse and get this really great deal, but they don't, because the bank, "You owe me at least $100,000 on this, so I need $105,000 for that in legal fees. That's my first offer. Who wants to go more?" If nobody goes more, it goes back to that bank, who then sends it through to a guarantor, an insurance company like Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae,
Yes.
the VA, any of those types of companies. And then they contract with professionals to market the house and get it ready for sale. At that point, it's actually available for us to show people.
But we want to emphasize, though, that, you know, from the time that it shows up in the circuit clerk's office until the time that the bank has put it out there to auction on the courthouse square, but let's say it doesn't get any bids or it doesn't meet the minimum, you could be talking 1, 3, 6, 12 months.
Easily.
You know, and in today's world, a customer or a person that owns that mortgage or owns the house, can go through there and they may get 6 months of forgiveness on not making house payments. So they could be in this house, 6 months to a year before they're evicted.
Right.
So this is not a quick
No, sir.
process
Never.
if you're looking to flip a home or upgrade your current residence. So it's something that you have to invest some time in.
Absolutely. And another thing that you need to consider, people that lose their homes to foreclosure, and sometimes through no fault of their own. People lose jobs. The economy today, I'm fearful of what's going to happen. Right now, they've put a moratorium on them. There won't be that many foreclosures until after December 31st. They just extended it. So this is a really difficult time, but as people get into that and they're waiting for that and they don't have the money because they've lost their job, they've been laid off, whatever, well, they're feeding their family. They're not doing upkeep on the house. So a lot of times you're going to get a lot of neglect in these houses, or a lot of routine maintenance that everybody takes for granted that they just can't do.
If I run across a foreclosure and I want to get an idea of what maintenance may need to be done to that foreclosure, can I have an inspector go through and take a look at that house and provide me with a list of what would be required to make it livable or bring it up to code?
Absolutely. And here's the thing. You need to know that you have that right, and especially in a foreclosure, you really need to do that inspection. There are different guidelines. Our state contract gives us 10 calendar days, or 10 business days. The banks and the foreclosure companies give you 10 calendar days, or 7 days, or we're not going to turn the utilities on. You have to turn those utilities on, and it has to be done in this window. Each one has their own different set of guidelines, but I think the most important thing to know, you have to have your pre-approval letter. They will not accept an offer unless you have pre-approval or proof of funds.
So I have to provide that to you before this whole process starts?
Before it starts. Then, as you go about doing your inspection, you have to know that you cannot get any repairs done. This is only for you to know what you're buying. So you don't get to go and say, oh, I need this for my loan. If it's not going to go FHA, it's not going to go FHA. And so you have to get the appropriate loan, and that's why it's really important to get an agent that knows the process, that knows how that has to be handled. Because once you find those, you can get out of the contract, you can get your earnest money back, and that's a good thing. You're not, you're just out that inspection fee, but you're not going to get them fixing anything.
Right.
That's a very important part, because right now in our real estate world, we essentially negotiate to buy houses, on behalf of our clients, and then we go in from the inspection report and says these things need to be finished, and we negotiate with the current buyers to say we'd like to have these items repaired, or we'd like to have a discount of this because of these repairs. Just knowing that with foreclosures in the foreclosure market, that inspection is only for your benefit, so that that, to your point, Kathy, that you're going to have to buy, if you pay this much for the property plus the amount of money that you need to spend for expenses for repairs.
Right.
So the foreclosure is basically as is. I'm
Absolutely.
buying the property
The
exactly
insurance,
as it is.
yeah, the insurance company / mortgage company, whomever is handling that sale, they've already predetermined, decided what they're going to accept.
Right. And I get a lot of people, buyers, that come in and say, well, you need to send this explanation to them. I'm going to make this offer low because they don't know. They don't realize this. And they do, because as a company that handles foreclosures, we go out and we check those properties, and we go over them with a fine-tooth comb. Home Steps, for one, will order certain inspections, and those are available to you as a buyer. They may have a roof inspection, an HVAC inspection, plumbing or septic inspection. They'll do those things ahead of time.
Let's go back to Courthouse Square auctions. Kathy, you and I have looked at one or two of those types of auctions.
Sorry, I know my thought.
And one of the things that we noticed was, especially when a company is engaged on a Courthouse Square auction, is, what you see there that day, you can buy for if you meet that minimum. If that minimum's not met, guys, a lot of real estate investors say, well, I'll just wait and I'll get it later. Well, once it passes the stage of the Courthouse Square auction, then they'll list that property nationally.
Yes.
And so then what happens is, you're bidding against buyers from New York, California, Chicago, wherever, where property prices may be 8-10 times higher, and $100,000 for a 3,000 square foot house may not, seems like, okay, it's a foreclosure. Well, to some of these buyers, it's minuscule money, and they'll buy it sight unseen. Right. So, there is some advantage to looking at the property, understanding the property, before you go and bid on the Courthouse Square foreclosure auction.
You have to do your research there,
yes.
Because with the foreclosure process, once they take it back, they're in the first line.
Well, basically what they're going to want is their investment.
Yes.
So say the bank,
yes,
the company, whomever, is going to take that $100,000 first.
Right.
As you mentioned, they're first in line.
And once they take it back as a foreclosure, then they run the title work. and they know if there's any liens or other things out there, judgments that need to be satisfied. They do their best, and we still get caught up in that sometimes. After we get under contract, we find something. But to you, you might get a deal at the courthouse steps, but these folks have been in financial distress. They may have a second mortgage on that house. They may have a builder's lien or a
So who does
contractor's
the title work inspection? Is that the buyer, or is
They
that
both do to a degree. And I
Okay.
will tell you, if you use the title company that the seller uses, they have large contracts, so they get a little bit a discount on their title work, and you still get that title policy and they stand behind it. There are some, HUD for instance, wants you to choose your own title company. They don't care who you choose them. And some people just feel better about having their own title company do that on their behalf, digging a little bit deeper in their minds. So, but you definitely want the title work on it, and you don't get that at the courthouse steps.
Liens and encumbrances are also in addition to what you pay for the property. So once, if that house has a line of credit on it, or it has a mechanic's lien against it, or if it has a second mortgage against it. So let's say you pay $100,000 for the property, but it's got a $50,000 line of credit against it. You've got to satisfy all of those liens before you can take possession of the property.
Right. And especially before you can flip it or resell it or anything along those lines. And that's an important piece to know for sure.
Right. What about short sales?
I always wondered about a short sale.
Well, I'm
Not
fairly
really sure
short. I'm a little
what
short.
differentiates that.
But I'm not for sale.
There's a new
Are you
modeling
Mr. Short
company, though. I hear there's a new modeling company that's looking for short folks. In the short sales, it's different. It hasn't gone into foreclosure yet.
Correct.
And what we've gotten into, I will tell you that I truly dislike doing short sales. Foreclosures, they're foreclosed on, they're going to sell. Short sales, maybe, maybe not. And so you go into a distressed home. A home buyer is not able to make their payments, so they negotiate with their mortgage company and say, I'm going to take less on this house to get out from under it. Their mortgage company can agree to that. They make an agreement, and it can go two ways. They can get a 1099 for the difference in what they sell it for, so they have to claim that as income, or they have to make payments on that, for what it's sold short. So people think short sale it's going to be short and easy, and it's not. At that point, your seller normally will take any offer you throw at them, but then it has to go back to the bank, and the bank can sit on that. You were talking about months earlier.
Yes.
My goodness, they can sit on that for up to 6 months. So those, you really need a knowledgeable agent to walk you through those processes and
But
expect to be there.
the key thing to understand, though, is just because it's sold at short sale, the homeowner is still going to be liable for the delta, the difference in the amount, if the bank doesn't want to accept a haircut on it.
Right.
So if it's $100,000 and they decide to short sell it for $70,000, that homeowner is making payments on $30,000 versus the whole $100,000.
Right.
It's interesting because whenever you talk about foreclosures or hear about short sales as a buyer, you kind of light up and go, oh man, I'm going to make a great deal.
Yes.
And they're going to be able to either flip it or move into it, or but get a home probably half the value of what it is there. And pretty much that's all true, as long as you've got the patience to go through the procedures that are necessary and required for that to take place.
Right.
Interesting.
Absolutely. And there's we could go on with this episode segment forever, ever, with the different details, and maybe we need to revisit it again.
Yeah, we could.
And talk some more at length. But
one of the things that I've also gotten from our conversation is, even on a foreclosure, short sale, whatever, it's good to have a real estate agent involved. They can guide you through the process and make sure that you're aware of all the information that you'll need to get involved in and see what's happening to make sure that foreclosure or short sale is right for you.
I've purchased several properties at auction and or foreclosures, and I have to tell you, even as a real estate agent, I still have to go back and ask questions to make sure that
Right.
it's a minefield that you got to navigate. And that's why you, to your point, you really need to have a real estate professional help you,
Right.
because even if they don't know the answer, they should know where to go to get you the answer.
And these sellers, when they get to that point, they're dealing with real estate agents. So people ask me all the time, well, give me their number and I'll call them. They're not going to talk to the average person, the average buyer. So they, going to have to go through us.
It's a good way
Unless it's the
to
courthouse.
protect both of us.
Yes,
the buyer
absolutely.
and the seller.
Absolutely.
Any final comments?
I learned a lot. Thank you for answering my questions.
Sure.
I would love to do it someday, but I think I'm going to kind of slow down and take my time.
Absolutely. My house is the foreclosure that I bought, and it's a process.
Yeah.
So
Great.
Well, that's it for this segment of Real Estate Today. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.
see you next time.
Bye. If you have any questions or comments about today's segment of Real Estate Today, please give us a call at 501-327-6731 or our direct phone numbers listed below.
And today we're talking about REOs, foreclosures, and short sales, and all the complexities that happen with all the.
Hello.
There's one.
There's one.
David, I've always admired you. I mean, you're extremely intelligent when it comes to real estate and the workings of it and the contracts and
Thank you.
the financing.
I've worked hard at it.
I know. And I hope that I can learn
Yeah.
from you.
Well, if you take the time and the effort.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Was this for the outtakes?
It's a
I
segment,
know
but
it's a
we'll go with
segment,
it.
but
Oh,
We're going to go with the
better you
episode. No.
Just leave it.
Excuse me? You were all over me last week, and this week you're going to say it's okay? You're going to give him an okay?
Well,
No, we'll redo.
You could call it real estate today instead of.
Well,
real
that's
estate
true.
today.
Totally lost my thought.
What do I need to know?
next question.
I know.
I still think we need to do this. You know?
Give me a mic check. 1, 2, 3.
Check, 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 check.
222.
Mike?
Beautiful, baby. Beautiful. All right.
Beautiful.